G'day all, Ben here, East West. This is going to be part 11 of our series of building the charting platform for Python using tkinter. So let's just jump into the code. So last time, this is where we left it, where we got to the point where we could add multiple moving averages onto our chart. But just looking at this, how it sits, for me now, I want to be able to have a button here that removes the study, so you can apply different ones, because obviously you don't want the chart being too full of too many lines because it gets a bit confusing. So let's just do that, because that won't take very long at all. So we're just here on our Jupyter notebook, and just down here into the main window section. I'm just going to come right down to the bottom here, and I'm going to put this, I think I'll put it right here, just below the Add Study button. I'm going to introduce a new button, and that is simply going to be, I'm going to create a button, pardon me, sorry, I'm going to create a button to clear all the studies. So I'm just going to bring in a button the same way as we did. I'm going to give it the command clear all studies, which is another function that we'll just have to quickly write. And then just give it that padding of 10. So that's all we need to do. We've done this before, that's pretty straightforward. All we need to do now is just create this new function called clear all studies, and that is very straightforward and quick. So I've just come back up here to where our functions are. I'm just going to add a new cell. But before I do it, just a bit of housekeeping. I realized I just got a bit carried away. I didn't put a heading in here. I think it's worth doing this because it can get a bit confusing. So function, if you haven't done this yourself already, for updating the chart with study, just so we just keep ourselves a little bit organized there. Okay, so this one is going to be a function for clearing studies. Okay, just like that, and I'll just make that a markdown. I'll run that. So I just need another cell. Okay, so this is pretty straightforward. So we're just going to define the function clear all studies, which you have to make sure matches whatever you've put down here. So all we're going to do now is we're going to say global add plot. So all that means is we're telling the function to get the global add plots list. Okay, so that add plots, of course, will have, remember up here like where we updated the start, so we were appending to add plots here, and we were putting in the study details. So we're telling the function to get the global add plots variable, and then we're just going to declare the add plots list blank. Okay, so there's nothing there, so we clear it out, and then we just go get the symbol, and then we will fetch and display the chart again. So that is exactly the same as this. Okay, the only thing we're doing is we're clearing the add plots list. That's all we need to do. So if we just now run this whole thing, if we just brought up the chart here with all these moving averages on here, it's just got 3 on there. You can see here now we've got a button that says clear all studies. So if we hit that, that'll just reset the chart back to its original form with no studies on it. So that's it. That's all we need to do for the clear all studies section. Now the next thing I'm doing is I'm just going to give this a little bit of a tidy up. So I think I mentioned this before, we don't actually need this. So I'm just going to get rid of that for the moment because we're declaring it here in the study plot. Now the only difference is here the width. It'll be set. So, you know, this is a variable you could bring in. You could possibly bring it in as an option to change. I'm going to set the width to 0.5, but that's all we need to do. And the thing is, every study will be shown as a line. If you don't want that, you're going to have to make a change, but I'm not sure why you wouldn't want that. So that just a code tidy up, nothing more than that. So at this point, I'm going to want to bring in a new study. So I'm going to bring in, right now we've got moving averages. Now I'm going to bring in the RSI. So I just need to come up here to the function for adding studies, and I just want to uncomment this. If you haven't typed it in, just want to type it in. Okay, so what we're going to do here is if the study is equal to RSI, the same way that we wrote a function here for adding the MA, now we're going to write a function for adding the RSI. So just as I move down my page here, I've got function for adding the MA. So I think I'll just put, it doesn't really matter, but just for logical sense, I'm now just going to add it in here, function for adding the RSI. Okay, I'm just going to do this. So make that a markdown, and then obviously I just want to insert a cell there to put the function in. Now, I'll just skip over most of this because it is virtually exactly the same as what we're doing here, okay? So what we will do is we'll bring in, the first thing we'll do is we'll just define it. So add RSI study. Just make sure that whatever's in here matches up with up here, okay, because that's what it's looking for. So all we need to do now is to bring in like a bunch of that labeling and option making. So this is all the same as the MA. We're just going to ask it, we're going to give a label to ask for the length. We're going to set the length. Usually the RSI, the default's 14. So we're just going to default to 14 and put that in the center. And then we're going to make a label to ask for the color. Once this is all the same, right? So we're going to say RSI color rather than MA color is black. We'll just make it black. And then we're going to make a label saying selected RSI color. So that's going to be the little square that shows us what color we've got. And then we're going to just pad that out as well. So that is all exactly the same as the MA. We're just doing all this, okay? But we're just adjusting a little bit because it's RSI, so it's slightly different. But effectively, it's the same coding. But here's where there could be a little bit of difference because we had this function, okay, and we had sort of this bit. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to jig this function, but we're just going to apply it for this is somewhere where you could possibly make the code more efficient by writing one large function for the system to call on. But what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to do a separate function for the RSI color itself. So I've just put all this in, and effectively this is doing exactly the same thing as as this is doing. There's just basically where we said MA color, we're basically just saying RSI color, but everything else is more or less the same. Okay, it's just that this one's called update selected color, whereas this one is update selected RSI color, but everything else is effectively running exactly the same way. It's just a tiny little function within this function. So that's pretty straightforward. We've done this before. And then the only other thing here is this select color function. That's the one that we've done. Where is it? It is above. So that's just calling this function again. So this function is set for any indicator. And like I said, so you could basically, I think you could run, you could find a way to make the code more efficient by having to only call this function once by sitting it outside the functions, but I won't go into that right now. This will work, so that can be something you can do on your own. So the next thing we just need to do now is to whack in an OK button. And so this this on OK is exactly the same as what we've effectively written here. The only thing we haven't done is this column name. Now I'll explain why that is moving forward. But we don't particularly need this for the reason, I mean, this is obviously a little bit, there's only one line to calculate the RSI here, but effectively everything here is happening the same way. The only difference is this. That will become clear as we go further on. So effectively at the moment, this is all we kind of need to sort of run the chart. Now there's going to be a problem that we're going to deal with, but I'll show you that as we step through. So let's just run everything we've got so far. So this is what we've got. Now if we come down here and make this RSI and add study, this brings up our nice RSI window, 14 length. Now here's the problem. When we hit OK, the RSI is plotted on the main chart. Now obviously we don't want that. We want the RSI to be plotted in its own pane below. So we've got to make a couple of changes to make that happen. Now these are the changes we've got to make. Firstly, in the function we've just written for the RSI, when we come down here to update chart with study, we just need to bring in another value that it needs to pass in. So what we're going to say is panel equals, oh, you don't need the space, panel equals 1. Okay, so that's all we need to do for right here. Okay, so what this means now is when we go to update chart with study, we need to give that a new variable that's going to get passed in. So we're going to here say panel equals 0. All right. Now we're going to do this to accommodate when we want to plot. See, this line won't be passed. I mean, you could do it, but it won't be passed on the moving average. Okay, you could here put panel equals 0. But basically what happens is when that isn't passed specifically, it's going to default to 0. So when we look at those MPF charts, the 0 panel is the top panel, and we're going to create a panel below, which is panel 1. So the last thing we really need to do here is when we're making a study plot, we're going to, there is a function here that you can specify the panel that it goes into. So the panel is going to equal panel. Okay, so this function, this RSI function, will set the panel to 1, and if there is no setting of the panel, it'll default to 0. So the panel will be either 1 or 0. That's all it can be. And so that's it. So all we need to do now is to run all this. So I'll just run this and bring the chart up. So back here on the application window, here's the chart. So now if we go RSI, add study, RSI, okay, now we're getting it on that lower panel, which is what we want. Okay, and then we've got the 80, 60, 40. Now, you know, you might be asking, oh, well, can I come here and format this? Well, the answer is yeah, you probably can. You just got to figure out the way to do it. But, you know, MPL Finance's charts has got some drawbacks, but you know, you can do this. So that is there. And then if we do clear all studies, that will do that. So if we put it all together, I just varied it up there for something a bit different. So this is just this is on mic. So we've got a moving average in here with the RSI. If we hit clear all studies, it'll reset the chart back like that. So that's where I'm going to leave this video. In the next video, we'll start adding in even some more studies. We're almost at the end. We're getting very close now, maybe just a couple more parts. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.